Nathan Callahan wasn't sure what woke him first. The dry, metallic scent of lightning still clinging to the air, or the silence that followed. The kind of silence that settled after a storm like an invisible weight, pressing into the bones. Out here in eastern Oregon, on the edge of the high desert, silence wasn't unusual. But this morning, it felt different. He stood on the porch of the bunkhouse at Summit Rock Ranch, steaming mug in hand, staring out toward the horizon. Jagged shadows of distant canyon walls painted the edge of the land, and the sky was that strange post-storm blue, too clean, too still. The air was cold, crisp, and carried no sound. No birdsong, no cattle lowing, just stillness. Nathan took a slow sip of coffee, eyes narrowed. He didn't believe in omens. He was a man of facts. At least, he had been. Once upon a time, he taught biology at a high school in Bend, had a house with a porch swing, a golden retriever named Finn, and a wife who laughed in her sleep. That was 3 years ago, before the curve in the road, before the police call, before the silence became his companion. Now he managed grazing routes and fencing across 35,000 acres of rugged country. It was solitary work. He liked it that way. No staff meetings, no awkward condolences, just land, sky, and the low, steady breath of Dusty, his old quarter horse, and the only living thing that had stuck by him since the funeral. He saddled Dusty without a word, swung into the saddle with practiced ease, and turned toward the northern boundary. Last night's thunderstorm had been a wild one, gusts up to 60 miles per hour, a couple of snapped posts on the east slope. He needed to check the line near the edge of the public range. The wild mustangs tended to linger there, and he'd rather not find a dozen head of cattle gone exploring. By the time they reached the ridge, the sun was climbing, casting gold light across the brush and sage. Dusty plodded along confidently, hooves crunching gravel. Nathan scanned the fence line, but something in the back of his mind itched. It wasn't anything he could see or smell. It was more like a feeling, like being watched. Not in a threatening way, but expectant, like someone or something was waiting for him. Then he saw her. The mare stood alone in the middle of the dirt road, maybe 100 yards ahead. She was a buckskin Mustang with a dark mane and a compact, powerful build. Her ears were up. Her eyes locked onto his. Nathan instinctively pulled Dusty to a slow stop. Mustangs were cautious by nature, especially around humans. They bolted at the snap of a twig. But this one, she didn't move. He tipped his hat back and watched. She took a few steps forward, then stopped, then turned, trotting a short distance toward the low hills to the west, before glancing over her shoulder, straight at him. Nathan blinked. The mare walked a few more paces, stopped, looked back again. "That's new," he muttered. Dusty shifted beneath him, sensing Nathan's tension. The mare trotted a little closer this time. She stopped within 50 feet. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, and she let out a soft, breathy whicker. Then, in a move that made Nathan's heart skip, she stepped up to Dusty and touched noses. Brief, gentle, deliberate. Nathan sat frozen. Dusty didn't flinch. The mare turned again, trotted ahead, then stopped and looked back one more time. Nathan had seen wild horses do a lot of strange things in his career, but this wasn't panic. This wasn't chance. It was purpose. He clicked his tongue, nudging Dusty forward. "All right, girl," he said quietly. "Let's see what you got to show me." They followed her into the low canyons beyond the boundary line. Technically public land, but few people went in there. Locals called it Crowsnap Canyon, named for the way the rocks jutted out like the broken beak of a bird. Rumor had it a flash flood once wiped out half a herd of deer in there. Bad footing, steep walls, no warning. As they moved deeper into the canyon, the air cooled, the shadows grew longer. And then it happened. Dusty halted mid-step, ears rigid. A low rattle came from the brush beside the trail. "Easy," Nathan whispered, tightening the reins. The mare stepped sideways and gave a sudden, sharp stomp near a sun-warmed boulder. The rattlesnake, coiled and ready, slithered backward, disappearing into the rocks. Nathan exhaled slowly. "Thanks for that." The mare didn't respond. She simply turned again and kept moving. They passed signs of last night's storm, a downed tree, a small mudslide, a few stones dislodged along the path. Nathan began to notice other things too, faint hoofprints, broken branches, scrapes on the rock walls. Something had come through here in a hurry. Then he heard it. At first, it was barely a whisper, a shrill, wavering sound, like wind squeezing through rock. But then it came again, higher, sharper, desperate. Nathan stiffened. That wasn't the wind, it was a cry. It was a cry. He dismounted, handed Dusty's reins over a low juniper branch, and began moving quickly on foot, following the sound. The mare took the lead again, darting ahead, then stopping to wait. They rounded a bend, and that's when Nathan saw it. Nestled at the base of a massive rockfall was a narrow crevice, barely visible through the debris. Inside, pacing in frantic little circles, was a foal, no more than a few months old, legs trembling, nostrils flared. Its coat was soaked with sweat, dust clinging to every inch. Every few seconds it would try to leap up onto the rock, only to fall back, scraping itself in the process. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. The mare let out a low nicker. The foal paused and looked toward her, answering with a high-pitched cry. The space around them fell into stillness again, and Nathan realized he was holding his breath. The mare looked at him. Really looked. Eyes wide, dark, bottomless. Nathan crouched beside the largest boulder, examining the formation. The slide looked fresh, loose, dangerous. One wrong move and the whole wall could shift again. But the foal couldn't get out without help, and with the heat rising and another storm system possibly on the way, he touched the rock, tested a few edges, checked his footing. Then, without looking back, he said aloud, more to himself than anyone else, "I don't know why you chose me, but I won't let him die down here." The mare took a step closer, her head level with his. In the silence, something passed between them. Not magic, not words, but something real. And it was only the beginning. The canyon was colder than Nathan expected. Even with the mid-morning sun rising higher, the rock walls blocked the warmth. Shadows clung to the crevices like old ghosts, and the silence now had a tension to it, like the pause before something cracked. Nathan crouched by the edge of the rockslide, examining the terrain with the eye of someone who'd rebuilt fences in mountain windstorms and dug cattle out of mudslides. This was different. A Mustang foal, wild and terrified, was trapped behind a tangle of stone. And a Mustang mare, its mother, had come to find him. He'd spent years trying to forget how powerless he'd felt the night of the crash, when he got the phone call about his wife. But now, here in the canyon, with nothing but a rope, a shovel strapped to Dusty's saddle, and his own stubborn will, Nathan felt a flicker of something else. Purpose. The foal called again, a piercing, panic-laced cry that bounced off the canyon walls. The little thing was still trying to climb out, scraping its legs against stone, exhausting itself with every failed attempt. "You're going to hurt yourself, kid," Nathan muttered. The mare stood to his right, shifting nervously, watching him with laser focus. Her muscles were tight, Her ears flicked constantly, but she didn't panic. She was waiting. Nathan stepped onto a flat stone near the edge of the slide, tested his balance, and started clearing smaller debris by hand. Loose gravel skittered down with every move. One of the larger rocks trembled slightly as he leaned his weight forward. "Okay, not that one," he muttered and backed off. The ground wasn't stable. One bad shift and the foal could get crushed. Hell, so could he. Dusty stood tied a few feet back, occasionally snorting, but calm. Nathan jogged over to his saddle and pulled out a small emergency kit: rope, compact shovel, folding crowbar. He hesitated, then reached into the side pouch and unzipped a small orange nylon bag. Inside was a blast cap and 2 sticks of controlled explosive. Standard issue for remote ranch crews in case they had to break through rock or snowpack. He hadn't used one in over a year. "I was hoping this day wouldn't come," he said grimly. Back at the slide, he studied the formation again. 3 large boulders formed a loose triangle at the center. If he could remove the central one, carefully, the other 2 might create a natural escape route. Or the whole thing might collapse, but the foal was running out of time, and there were dark clouds forming at the canyon's mouth. "Flash flood comes through here and we're all toast," Nathan said under his breath. As he dug around the central boulder, something shifted beneath his right foot. A sharp crack, then pain. His ankle twisted between 2 stones wedged fast. Nathan gasped and went down hard on one knee. "Damn it!" Before he could maneuver, the mare was there. She had crossed to him without hesitation, standing just feet away, eyes locked on his leg. Then something happened that would replay in Nathan's mind for years to come. She reached forward, not wildly, not aggressively, and nudged his foot with her nose, gently, then again. Her hoof scraped at the rope coil hanging off his hip. "You want the rope?" She huffed softly. He gritted his teeth and reached for it, tossing one end around a nearby rock to brace. Using both hands, and with the mare bracing her weight against the opposite side of the wedge, Nathan was able to pull his foot free. It hurt like hell, but he could stand. "You're some kind of miracle, you know that?" he said, leaning on the rock. She just turned back toward the foal. That settled it. No more hesitation. He placed the explosive at the right pressure point, set the charge carefully, and ran the ignition cord back 30 yards. The mare moved with him, calm but alert, ears twitching with every sound. "Cover your ears," he told Dusty. The blast cracked through the canyon like a gunshot. When the dust cleared, Nathan sprinted back to the site. The large boulder was gone, and in its place a gap, just wide enough for a small Mustang to squeeze through. But the foal didn't move. It stood frozen, breathing hard, eyes wide with fear. "Come on, little guy," Nathan said, crouching low and holding still. The mare took over. She stepped close to the gap and made a series of low, musical sounds, somewhere between a hum and a whinny. She dipped her head through the opening, pulled back, then repeated. The foal answered in kind. "Talk to him," Nathan whispered. Again and again she called softly, nudging at the entrance, even pawing lightly at the ground to show him it was safe. It took 5 agonizing minutes, but finally the foal took one step, then another. Its legs were shaky, its chest heaved, but it moved. When it squeezed through the gap and fell against its mother's shoulder, Nathan felt something in his chest break open. The mare licked her baby's mane. The foal let out a wheezing nicker and leaned into her side. Then something remarkable happened. The mare turned, not to flee, but to walk toward Nathan. She stopped a foot away. Nathan didn't move. She reached out with her muzzle and pressed her forehead against his chest. He felt her breath, warm and deep against his ribs. He stayed perfectly still, heart pounding. Then she pulled back and turned. The first fat drop of rain smacked against the back of his neck. "Time to go," he said to no one. The thunder in the distance was closer now. The canyon had been dry just hours ago, but the floor was a natural funnel. Flash floods could come without warning, and there was no outrunning them once they started. He untied Dusty, climbed into the saddle with a hiss from his bruised ankle, and looked at the mare and foal. They were ready. They didn't sprint. They moved together, Foal tucked between his mother and Nathan, trotting up the path with surprising synchronicity. Behind them, lightning split the sky. At the top of the canyon rim, wind whipped Nathan's face, bringing with it the sharp, metallic promise of more rain. But they had made it. The mare turned one last time. Her golden coat was streaked with dust and rain. The foal nuzzled close to her, trembling but safe. Nathan looked at them, this wild family that had trusted him with everything. And for the first time in years, he felt alive. By the time Nathan reached the pasture gate, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, but his bones still ached from the cold. Dusty was soaked to the skin, the foal barely able to keep up, and the mare moved with the kind of fierce, instinctual protectiveness that made Nathan's skin prickle. She wasn't leaving the foal's side, not for him, not for anyone. As he opened the gate and guided them toward the barn, a figure came running from the main house. "Nathan." Emily's voice cracked with worry. "What the hell happened?" He dismounted, wincing at the weight on his ankle. "I found them. The foal's alive, but they've been through hell." Emily's face went pale as she saw the mare and foal behind him. "You mean that's the mother?" He nodded. "Came back for him, saved my damn life too." Emily stared in awe. "I've never seen anything like this." "She's staying the night in the back pen, just until the storm's gone." "Won't she bolt?" "She had every chance back there," Nathan said, his voice low. "Didn't take it." Inside the barn, Nathan prepared a separate stall with fresh straw. The foal trembled from fatigue, its legs giving way once, but the mare nuzzled it upright again. Nathan stood by the gate, arms folded, watching them settle. Two creatures from another world who had somehow chosen to trust him. But peace, he knew, never lasted long. The next morning, the sun broke through the storm clouds, bathing the ranch in gold. Nathan sipped his coffee from the porch, ankle elevated, as Emily scrolled her phone with a pinched look on her face. "You're trending," she said, turning the screen toward him. A drone video, blurry but clear enough, showed him leading the mare and foal up the ridge, rain falling in sheets. Someone must have been filming from the highway overlook. The caption read, "Mustang Mother and Her Rescuer, a Wild Reunion." The comment section was a wildfire. Adoration, outrage, calls for protection, threats of government seizure. Nathan groaned. "Wonderful, viral fame, just what I wanted." "People are coming, Nathan," Emily said softly. "Reporters, activists, probably BLM agents too. They'll try to take her. She's still a wild horse under federal protection. You brought her in even if it was for the foal's sake." "I didn't bring her in," he muttered. She followed. Before Emily could respond, the screen door slammed open. Debbie. Makeup too sharp, heels too high for ranch gravel, she strode toward them like she owned the place. Behind her trailed Gavin Lark, the local sheriff. Thin, tired-eyed, and clearly uncomfortable. "Well," Debbie said, her voice dripping false sweetness, "isn't this just a storybook ending? Nathaniel Hale, the horse whisperer of High Ridge. What do you want, Debbie?" "To remind you that your decisions affect more than your bruised conscience," she said. "You bring in a wild mare, let her foal sleep in a barn, And now you've got half the state watching. Sponsors are pulling out. We're hemorrhaging PR. Nathan stood slowly. This isn't about PR. Everything's about PR, she snapped. We're supposed to be a sanctuary, not a circus. Gavin cleared his throat. Nathan, I've been contacted by the Department of Land Management. They want to come by tomorrow and assess the mare. They're not taking her, Nathan said flatly. If she's deemed feral and unfit for captivity, she's not feral. She chose to stay. Gavin gave him a long look. I know you believe that, but the law doesn't care. As Debbie turned to leave, she smiled tightly. I suggest you prepare a statement, or a goodbye. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He stood by the mare's stall, arms resting on the wooden gate. She watched him, unblinking, her foal curled beside her like a child, clinging to its only safety in the world. You don't know what you started, do you? He whispered. You just wanted your baby, but now they're coming for you. The mare blinked slowly, then stepped forward. She leaned her weight against the gate post, just enough to creak the wood, and exhaled, low and steady, not fear, not aggression, just presence. That's when Nathan knew. If they came for her, she wouldn't run. She'd stand, and he'd stand with her. The next morning brought more than government agents. A black SUV rolled up the gravel path just before noon. Nathan met them at the gate. Emily beside him, arms crossed, while Debbie hovered on the porch like a vulture watching a storm. From the SUV emerged April Jennings, a representative from the Bureau of Land Management, flanked by two assistants, polished, unreadable, and clearly not here for pleasantries. Mr. Hale, she said coolly, we're here to evaluate the situation. Nathan said nothing, just led them to the barn. When April laid eyes on the mare and foal, something flickered behind her expression. You claim she returned for the foal of her own will? No claim, Nathan said. It's fact. And she hasn't shown aggression. Only instinct. April crouched by the gate, studying the mare, who stood tall and still, ears flicking. The foal peered out from behind her flank. This is highly unusual, April admitted. She's not a specimen, Nathan said. She's a mother. We'll need to report this. A formal ruling will take weeks. She doesn't have weeks. April rose. I'll recommend temporary holding here under observation. But be ready, Mr. Hale. If she shows any signs of distress, they'll order her relocated. She's already home, Nathan said quietly. As April turned to go, she paused. This is going to bring a lot of attention, you know. People want symbols. Be careful which one you become. That night, Nathan walked to the barn again. This time, he didn't stop at the gate. He stepped into the stall, slow, deliberate, and crouched beside the foal. The mare watched, tense but still. Nathan reached out, and the foal pressed its muzzle into his palm. From the corner of his eye, he saw the mare lower her head, letting out one soft breath. He smiled. Let them come. Nathan stood in the center of the barn, silent, motionless. Morning light spilled across the straw as the mare stepped forward, her body casting a long shadow over the foal, who now nuzzled Nathan's side like it belonged there. And maybe it did. Maybe they all did. But peace, like wild horses, was a fleeting thing. By the time the sun rose high over High Ridge, the world had caught up. The road up to the ranch shimmered with heat as a line of vehicles crept into view. Reporters, animal rights activists, influencers, curious locals. Nathan counted at least 4 tripods and 3 people with drones before he even reached the gate. Emily met him with 2 coffees and a dry look. We're officially a zoo, she said, nodding toward a woman holding a sign that read, Let her stay. Let her choose. Nathan sipped the coffee. At least they're on our side. Yeah, but the ones who aren't? They're not shouting, they're writing reports. He turned to see April Jennings again, this time standing with Debbie, arms crossed tight and mouth drawn in a hard line. Beside them, Gavin Lark watched the scene unfold with the heavy weariness of a man stuck between rules and right. Nathan, April began, I need to speak with you privately. You can say it here, Nathan said, unless you've got a tranquilizer behind your back. She ignored the jab. We've received a formal directive from D.C. A federal order has been issued to relocate the mare to a containment facility in Utah. The foal may remain temporarily due to its age and dependency. Emily swore under her breath. Nathan blinked. They want to separate them? April's tone was cool. The foal will be weaned in time. This is protocol. She'll destroy herself looking for him, Nathan said. She already crossed miles in a storm to get back. You think she'll survive behind metal gates alone? Debbie stepped forward, lips thin. Nathan, this isn't about you. It's about what's right for the sanctuary. He looked at her sharply. Is that what this place is now? Just paperwork and permits? You used to care about the horses. I care about the mission, she snapped. And if we lose our license over your little emotional crusade, Emily cut in. Don't you dare reduce this to emotion, Debbie. That mare made a choice. And if we punish her for it, what kind of sanctuary are we really running? April held up a hand. I'm just the messenger, folks, but enforcement arrives in 2 days. I suggest you prepare. That night, Nathan sat in the stall again. The foal was asleep, its chest rising and falling against the straw. The mare stood near the gate, unmoving. Watching. Always watching. Nathan pulled a folded photo from his jacket, dog-eared and sun-faded. It showed him with 2 other men, much younger, arms slung around each other, grinning in front of a BLM Ranger truck. One of them, with wild dark curls and a stubborn chin, looked a lot like Nathan. Luke, his younger brother. Gone 12 years now, vanished in the backcountry on a tracking assignment. Official report said exposure. Nathan never bought it. Luke had believed in the wild, believed in choice, in letting animals lead. You'd get it, wouldn't you? Nathan whispered. You'd say, let her run, or stay, but don't ever lock her up. The mare shifted closer, her breath warm on his shoulder. The next day, Nathan made a choice. He walked out to the crowd, climbed onto the old feed truck bed, and raised his voice above the hum of camera shutters. I'm not handing her over, he said, not without a fight. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Debbie stormed out from the barn, red-faced. Nathan! He held up a hand. You want to sue me? Do it. You want to take my name off the ranch title? Fine. But I will not be complicit in tearing that mare from her child. April stepped forward. You understand this could escalate? Let it, he said. Let the world watch. And the world did. Within hours, hashtags trended. Number, let her choose. Number, free the mare. Number, High Ridge Sanctuary. Animal rights lawyers offered pro bono aid. Families sent letters. A retired veteran from New Mexico pledged $10,000 to fight the relocation. Even April seemed rattled. That evening, Gavin showed up at the ranch, out of uniform. He leaned on the fence beside Nathan. You know this is reckless. Yeah, but not wrong. Nathan nodded. BLM called me. Said they're delaying enforcement. Public pressure's too loud. You've got a window, maybe a week. Nathan turned to him. Thank you. Gavin shrugged. Just don't make me regret it. Inside the barn, the mare seemed calmer, her body no longer taut with fear. The foal played in circles, tail high, bumping into Nathan's leg. Emily joined him, carrying a printed email. "You need to see this," she said. He read the message. It was from a woman named Clara James, head of a wildlife ethics research group. She was proposing something radical. A first-of-its-kind study on equine maternal cognition. Using this mare and foal as a centerpiece, she offered support, scientific validation, and perhaps most important, leverage. "She says this case could change everything," Emily whispered. Nathan folded the letter slowly. "Then we'd better get ready." Nathan stared at the empty stall, now clean and quiet, but still echoing with memories. The scent of hay lingered in the air, mingling with the metallic trace of dried blood that no amount of scrubbing could erase from his mind. He hadn't slept well since that morning on the ridge. The mother's soft cries still haunted his dreams. 2 days after the incident, he walked into the regional bureau office and laid his badge on the desk. No ceremony, no words. Just the weight of grief and the silent knowledge that he could no longer carry out orders that went against what his heart had witnessed. The agency offered him a different post. Desk work, away from the field, away from the Mustangs. He declined. He didn't belong behind a screen. Not after kneeling beside a dying foal. Not after seeing tears fall from the eyes of a wild mother. When Emily found out, she didn't say anything at first. Instead, she uploaded the footage she'd secretly recorded on her phone. The foal tangled in barbed wire, the desperate cries of the mare, the hushed conversation between Nathan, Debbie, and April. And finally, the moment of mercy. Nathan, holding the foal's head, the mother Mustang pressing her face into her baby's neck, her tears soaking the dusty coat. The video hit the internet like lightning. Within hours, it had spread beyond state lines. News outlets ran headlines like, "A Mustang's Goodbye," and "The Horse Who Wept." People across the country watched, cried, and reacted, not just to the tragedy, but to the profound humanity in Nathan's choice and the raw display of emotion from the mare. Strangers sent letters, artwork, donations. A small memorial of flowers and Mustang figurines appeared outside the bureau's gate. But Nathan didn't want fame. He wanted change. A week later, Debbie reached out. Her voice was steadier now, clearer than it had been in years. "I've been thinking," she said over the phone. "That foal, it changed something in me. Maybe it's time I stop running from the past." Nathan met her the next day at a dusty lot outside town. Emily was there too, already making sketches of fences and shelters. They had a dream, and now they had a reason. Together, the three of them started building Foal's Hope, a sanctuary for orphaned and injured wild Mustangs. It wasn't just a place for healing the horses. It became a haven for broken people too. Veterans suffering from PTSD, teens struggling with trauma, even former wranglers looking to make amends. Everyone found a piece of peace there. The sanctuary grew quickly. Volunteers came in droves, donations poured in, locals brought lumber, feed, and blankets. What started as a response to a single heartbreaking moment turned into a full-scale movement. And then something strange began to happen. Every Friday morning, without fail, a fresh bundle of highland grass appeared just inside the sanctuary's east fence, still damp with dew, roots intact. No person was ever seen, no tracks, no tire marks, just the soft press of hooves in the dirt and the lingering scent of something wild. Emily was the first to say it aloud. "You think it's her?" Nathan didn't answer right away. He just looked out toward the ridge, where the hills met the sky. "I don't think she ever left." One early morning, long before the sun had crested the horizon, Nathan spotted her. The mother Mustang stood atop a nearby bluff, her silhouette sharp against the pink light of dawn. Her coat was dusty but strong, her mane caught in the breeze. She didn't approach. She only watched, calm, alert, as if counting heads in the pasture below. He watched her, too. She was thinner now, but her eyes still burned with quiet fire. After a few minutes, she turned and disappeared into the trees, as silently as she'd come. Emily kept her distance, but she noticed the rhythm. Same day, same spot, same quiet gift. Week after week, the grass came, like an offering, or perhaps a vigil. That fall, as the sanctuary settled into its rhythm, Emily sat at the long wooden table in the common room, laptop open, fingers hovering over the keys. Her college application was due in 2 days. She'd been avoiding it, unsure what to write. Now she knew. She titled the essay, "The Day I Saw a Horse Pray." She described the morning on the ridge, the blood, the barbed wire, the hopelessness in everyone's eyes. She wrote about the mare, her desperate cry, her silent tear, and Nathan kneeling beside the foal, his hands trembling as he made the kindest, hardest decision of his life. She wrote, "Some people say animals don't grieve, but I watched a wild mother cry. I watched her say goodbye, and I watched her return week after week, leaving food for the children she never knew. If that isn't love, what is?" When she finished, she didn't read it aloud. She simply stood up and handed the laptop to Nathan. He read it in silence, nodding slowly, his throat tight. That evening, they sat side by side on the porch of the sanctuary's cabin. Below them, in the valley, young mustangs galloped, their manes catching the wind, their joy unburdened by the past. And on the distant ridge, silhouetted against the last orange light of sunset, stood a lone mare, watching, still there, still faithful, still a mother.